All right, I want to give all praise and glory and honor to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. And I want to just do a quick breakdown on Lamentations chapter 1. This is the book of Lamentations chapter 1, verse 1. How doeth the city sit solitary that was full of people? How is she become as a widow? She that was great among the nations, princess among the provinces, how is she become tributary? So this is speaking about Israel, of course, becoming tributary. You know, we sitting as a widow, right? These are two downfalls of Israel, okay? Yahweh was like a husband unto us, okay? And as a father, okay, we become tributary. We're paying the other nations. We're paying the other nations taxes, you know, and it gets worse as we see today. We're dealing with the curses, right? You know, we dealing with the curse. We don't know who we are now, right? So we're as a widow now. We're paying tributary. We're paying tribute, paying taxes, okay? And you know, despite what it says in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, which is we are an holy people unto the Lord, our power, right? So let's go to the next verse. She weepeth sore in the night, and her tears are on the cheeks among all her lovers. She hath none to comfort her. That's right. You know, look at how we are right now. Look at what we're dealing with. Nobody cares to comfort us. We only meant to, you know, build up Esau's kingdom. We only meant to build up Esau's kingdom. All right? In these last days. That's the only thing we meant to do, is build up Esau's kingdom and keep his kingdom going. And despite all the oppression, all the curses that we have experienced, all the forwarding of the affliction that we have experienced as a people, all the hard work that we had to put in just paying one simple bill, right? You know, just to stay alive, being in slavery, just to stay alive, the hard work we had to do just to stay alive, just to, get that slop that they fed us before we went out on the field. Just for those little things, that small bit of necessity, the things that we had to go through, the things we had to endure. And over us, they put the so-called Jewish Holocaust, which was possibly orchestrated by the so-called white man, right? So that they can take away our heritage, right? They're taking away our heritage with acting as if they were put through the curses, right? But they didn't experience these curses. The so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans experienced these curses to the utmost, all right, to the fullest, right? Because that's how we know who we are in these last days, because of the things that we endure, the things that we are forced to endure. So it says, she weepeth sore in the night, and her tears are on the cheeks among all her lovers. She hath none to comfort her. Nobody cares about the things we endured and the things that we still go through today. They scoff at us, and they want to see more happen to us. They want to see us dealt with thoroughly, man. You know, despite everything that we experience, they want to see more and more happen to us. Despite our people being the ones locked up in prisons, right? And working for $1.25 an hour, being locked up in these prisons and jailhouses, right? Our women out here being whoremongers, being whores, and men out here being whoremongers, right? Out here destroying one another for nothing, man. Little pieces and specks of dust. We're destroying each other, killing one another. Cause his car looked better than mine, man. All these things pass away with the using of it, but we sit up here and covet over wicked things because our enemies have, beat us down. Okay, and we have wickedness in us, but the so-called white man beat us down and, forward these afflictions upon us, man. So, at the end of the day, we are the ones who are not cared for in these not comforted in these last days. Every other nation that have been oppressed by the so-called white man have received reparation or some form of, they out here surviving. You know, as far as Jake that don't follow politics is concerned. But when you look at when we look at ourselves, it ain't no question that we the ones out here suffering these oppressions, suffering these curses, not the so-called white man, not no other nation. Okay, that's why the Lord is only for us. He's only for his chosen. So it says, all her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They are become her enemies. That's right. That's what's happening to Israel. You know, when we made covenants with these other nations, with hell, and you know, became in agreement with hell, what happened? You know, they destroyed us, took us off our land, and everybody was happy in that thing. They were happy to see us be destroyed. So it says, Judah is gone into captivity because of affliction and because of great servitude. She dwelleth among the heathen, she findeth no rest. That's right. There's no rest for our feet. You know, we don't find no rest. Everything that we do, we run around ripping and running trying to get bills paid. We ripping and running trying to keep the little that we have, right? And we don't learn from it. We're not choosing to learn from it. So-called black man. We're not choosing to learn from those things. You know, Ephraim want to build with hewn stones, right? Meaning they see what we came from. They seen what we came from. They seen that we had businesses and whatnot after slavery. We see that we had cities established. You know, we even produced oil, you know. And what happened? The so-called white man came and destroyed it with violence. So we can't do nothing against that sword. The white man is a devil. That should have been apparent back then, you know. And then now today, their children are put in a position to receive. Their children are put into a position to be the lender, okay? Their children are put in a position to experience every piece of voluptuousness, you know, that anybody can want in this present world that was made for many, right? But Jake, his world is about suffering. Okay, his world is about heartache and pain. Like it says right here, no rest. It says all her persecutors overtook her between the straits. That's right. What are the straits? Well, it's a hard thing. It's a hard way. Okay. I mean, it's a hard way. You don't have many options. That's how it is for the so-called black man, especially when it comes to this thing called finance and economy. You know, you have to bite the bullet. You have to do things that are not morally right. You lose your moral compass. You have no moral compass, right? Whatever the so-called white man tells you to do, you'll do it to survive, right? And they glorify that thing in our entertainment world. They glorify that type of stuff in our you know, entertainment and in our own households. Our parents, their judgment is so messed up that they want our children to eat of that type of understanding. Do whatever you got to do to survive. Do whatever you got to do to get to the next level and da-da-da-da-da. And they attribute that to sports. But what about when Jake can't play sports no more? They do that in the workplace. You know, right there next to their brother, hurting their brother. They do that in the neighborhood, you know, with different things that we covered after, you know, getting Jake killed. Do that in our social life when it comes to, you know, women, you know. Do whatever it takes to survive. Do whatever it takes to get that thing that you want, right? So let's keep going. It says, so that's what it's talking about. All the her persecutors overtook her between the straits, and that's really talking. That's also talking about the conquering of Jerusalem. You know, we even got to the point. Our forefathers got to the point where they was eating their children, right? And that's how we do now. You know, with abortions and whatnot. You know, you in a straight thing in a hard way. So you last thing on your mind is trying to take care of a kid. You can barely take care of yourself. So what happened? You kill your kid. And that's the wisdom of this world, man. You know, because we base that off of the conditions that are around us, that the so-called white man is created, right? But the Lord wants us to not lean to our own understanding and turn to Him. That's the key right there. Is to put off our own thoughts and turn to the Most High, whose thoughts is above our thoughts and ways above our ways, and for us to have faith, right? So the so-called white man can stop dealing with us like this, right? You know, so that the Lord can make Jerusalem a praise in the earth, you know, and that might take death. for some of you. That might take death for a lot of you. You know, what am I saying? It's going to take death for you to make, you know, when you're doing your part, it might take death for you, you know, to make, to seek the Lord and turn to the things of the Lord, you know. It might take death because of all of this captivity, all of these curses that we're experiencing. You know, some of you might have to be put to death, you know, to see those wide things, right? It says the ways of Zion do mourn. That's right. You know, that's why our music is different. You know, the music that we put out is more deeper in your soul. It's like that soul music. You know what I mean? When we was in church, you know what I mean? We know how to, you know, make people feel us, you know, because we dealing with it. We going through it. There is goodness, he was an actor back in the way back in the slave days, you know, back in the 1800s. This guy named Ira Aldridge. Look this man's story up, but he used to do a lot of plays to a lot of what was it, like he'd do stuff like, I can't think of the writer of these plays, but he do you know, like, what was that one play called that we all read in school? Macbeth. You know, the guy who did Macbeth or whatever, you know, he'd do a lot of this guy's plays. This black man would do a lot of these guys' plays in front of these white audiences. And, you know, they'd beat the hell out of him and run him off. They didn't want him dealing with, you know, those plays that was usually acted out, those characters that was usually acted out by a so-called white man, which Edomite, you know. And the brother said, what got me is that the brother said nobody knows how to. He was going to do a play where he's going to act out a Jew, you know. He was going to be a Jew in a certain play, and he said no other person can capture the sorrow of a Jew like I can. That's what that brother said. His name was Ira Aldridge. Y'all should look that up just to, you know, for a good, you know, bio read on you know, a so-called black man, a Judite. So yeah, man, I mean, it says in verse 4, the ways of Zion do mourn, and that's exactly what blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans go through, man. Hispanics, you know, a lot of Mexicans, they listen to rock. You know, they listen to a lot of that emotional stuff, you know what I mean? Blacks, we listen to we make a lot of our music, rap and all this, that, and the other. And because we know about mourning. We know about, you know, heartaches and pains. You know, white people can't deal. We all often talk about those things. So-called white man can't deal with the oppression that we deal with. You know, they wouldn't be able to survive it. You know, and what happens? They end up killing themselves. They end up, you know, committing suicide. You know, they end up shooting people up. You know what I mean? You know, they you know, that's how it is. But for Zion, the ways of Zion do mourn, because none come to the solemn feast. All her gates are desolate. Her priests sigh. Her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness. That's right. That's how it is around here. You know what I mean? You know, that's what Israel is going through. A lot of mourning, a lot of affliction goes on. You know, so our ways, you know, do mourn. The ways of Zion do mourn. So in verse 5 it says, her adversaries are chief. That's right. The earth is given to the hand of the wicked. They cover the faces of the judges thereof. You know, our adversaries are chief. The so-called white man is the chief around here, right? And then, you know, in the nations of Esau's confederacy, you know, they rule over us and oppress us as well. And they love to have it so. They love it that way. It says, for the Lord hath afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children are gone into captivity before the enemy. And from the daughter of Zion, all her beauty is departed. Her princes are become like harts that find no pasture. It says, and they are gone without strength before the pursuer. That's right. And the pursuer is a so-called white man. We don't have any strength, right? We don't have any economic strength, no We don't have any strength in land, being able to grow and play. We don't have we don't have strength in knowledge. You know what I mean? We don't know enough to become anything and to save ourselves from the hand of the oppressor, the pursuer. We don't have we throw us in the woods and we gonna die in the woods, man. We don't have any understanding of the world around us, the earth around us, right? We don't know how the so-called white man has took those things from our forefathers and made us depend on his understanding, okay, his education, his growing his financial power, not gaining our own. They destroyed it when we had it. So that those ways have been taken from us. Even when we grow up, in this system, we grow up to seek a job in this system of oppression, to receive position in this system of oppression, man. So we don't have the right mindset to care for our people, care for our brothers. We don't have that mindset to care for our brethren. We don't have that mindset to be our brother's keeper, right? It says they are gone without strength before the pursuer. We don't have strength we don't have strength in number either. We separate from each other. We walk past each other, Scriptures say, don't just speak to those who are at peace with you. What reward is there for you? So you got to speak to your enemies that's of your neighbors. If they call themselves an enemy to you, speak to them when you see them. Salute them. Hey man, how you doing? This, that, and the other. Even though they call themselves an enemy to you, even though they be as an enemy to you, you still got to speak to them. But Jake, so Jake need to take that with him when we just walking the day to day. You don't even know him, and you sit up there angry with your brother without a cause. That's wickedness. I mean, you're a murderer. You probably ain't never picked up a gun, never thought about killing nobody, but you're a murderer when you hate your brother in your heart. So we don't have any strength financially, strength in numbers, strength in knowledge. We don't have no strength, man. We only have strength in how to build up this system of oppression, man. Build up for the so-called white man, the chief, right? It says in verse 7, Jerusalem remembered in the days of her affliction and of her miseries all her pleasant things that she had in the days of old. Yeah, we like to talk about the wonderful works of Yahweh, all the way up to, when, you hear parents, grandparents talk about our music was better back in the day, and, seeking for the old paths, we had Black Wall Street, all these businesses and whatnot, speaking about those things, but we can't receive those things, man, because even a lot of those things we was doing it in wickedness. But this scripture is specifically talking about, our forefathers, looking back to the things that we used to have, being in Jerusalem. Our forefathers coming into slavery. They used to look back. Our forefathers being ran out of Jerusalem in 70 A.D. They remembered the things of old, but they never laid it to heart that they done wickedness, man, committed great transgression against the Lord. And we doing the same thing today. We want to think about Black Wall Street and all this, that, and the other, but we not realizing we ain't laying it to heart that we offended the Lord, man. That we offended the Lord. It says, when her people fell into the hand of the enemy and none did help her, the adversaries saw. See, it says the adversaries. Let's talk about the men of Esau's confederacy. So it says the adversaries saw her and did mock her Sabbaths. That's right. That's what happened to the northern kingdom. Okay, as well. Okay, so it happened to Israel. It happened to the northern and southern kingdom. These things happen to us as a people, man. Mock their Sabbaths. It says Jerusalem hath grievously sinned, therefore she is removed, and that honored. And it says all that honored her despise her because they have seen her nakedness. Yeah, she sigheth and turneth backward. That's right. Being destroyed by our enemies, man. Overtaking us in the straits. It's like they raping us, man. And we turn to let them have it freely, man. You know, open our legs. Israel opened their legs to every tree. You know, open our feet to every tree. You know, bringing in all types of wickedness and other doctrines. That's why Israel today have that same wickedness, because they don't want to deal with what thus said the Lord. You know, they don't want to turn to those things that are pleasant and good. You know, we want to do what all the other nations have given us to do. Okay. Oh, you can wear whatever you want to wear, do what you want to do, think how you want to think, be what you want to be. All this types of understanding comes from our oppressors, man. It's not good for us. It's for our hurt. It says, her filthiness is in her skirts. She remembereth not her last end. Therefore she came down wonderfully. And that's how we do today. We don't remember that we used to have acres and acres of land, trillions of acres of land. We don't remember that we used to have businesses. We don't remember that we used to, care for one another. Hey, brother, how you doing? Y'all need anything? This, that. We don't care about those things no more, right? And it says, therefore she came down wonderfully. And this is talking about the state of Israel when the Lord blessed us with everything that we needed, supernatural power even. You know what I mean? We had supernatural power. Our armies were feared in this world, man. In this world that was made for many, our armies was feared, But what ended up happening? We turned from the Lord with violence, man. Turned from the Lord, kicked against Yahweh, man, in the truth. So what? What ended up happening? Okay, we lost everything. We came down wonderfully. That's why we in astonishment. Everybody looking down on us. Hey, look at Jake, shaking their head at us, even to this day, shaking their head at us. Got on World Star Hip Hop, all types of videos on YouTube. We getting killed in the streets. They shaking their head at us, saying it's our fault. Nobody has righteous judgment when it comes to the things that we suffering out here, right? So it says, therefore she came down wonderfully. She had no comforter. O Lord, behold my affliction, for the enemy hath magnified himself. That's right. So-called white man is magnifying himself. Our people even deliver the so-called white man in conversation. Our people have love, fervent love for the so-called white man, right? We have a burning love for the so-called white man, That's all, you say anything about the so-called white man, our people trying to kill us, So it says, for the enemy have magnified himself. And that's right. In every way. That's why things have gotten worse. And even our elders, they sit there and say it's our fault. But they don't realize that the so-called white man, that was his plan. That was his plan, to put more wicked things on us, to separate us from one another. We don't realize that the so-called white man put more wicked things on us to have us at odds with our brethren. They promote covetous ways, like it says in Proverbs. In Psalms, chapter 10. Okay, it says, in verse 3, for the wicked the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. That's right. So the wicked bless our woman to be covetous and desire for things that corrupt with the using of them. The things that are destroyed with the using of it. The wicked have corrupted our minds in so many ways. The wicked have corrupted our ways in so many ways. So, we got to do better. We got to think better, So I guess I'm going to do a part 2 to this. So I'm going to say, Shalom.